iron isn't as bad now as it's already been pressed. So we're going to run the iron along, running it a little bit, which I don't want to do. Let's turn that down a bit. Well, hello. I'm going to be ironing today. I iron quite a lot, and suddenly occurred to me that I've actually seen a few ASMR videos involving ironing, and I think it's something that I can definitely incorporate my nails into. We have dual angle today. Of all my videos that could have been dual angle, I chose the ironing one. I'm going to turn this on. I recently got a new iron and ironing board, which is why I've chosen now to film this video, because my iron and ironing board are so well used, they quite quickly start looking a bit worn out, I suppose. So let's turn this up. I'm hoping the creakiness isn't going to get too bad. I would recommend, when you're ironing, if you're not going to fold your clothes after and put them in a drawer, if you're going to hang them, have the hangers here ready. So I keep hangers on the end of the ironing board so that when I finish ironing an item, I can put it straight on the hanger. Okay, let's start. We'll start with an easy one. This is just a black cotton t-shirt, belongs to my son. My advice is to always start on the back of the item. That way, if you iron in any creases by accident, you will see those on the other side and you'll be able to smooth them out. This material, irons quite well, so I'm not going to use the spray function. I will just let the iron steam itself, and that should be enough. I don't go up to the edge because, just turn that down a bit, I don't want to iron in creases along the side. You don't need to press down when you're using the iron. Usually the weight of the iron is enough, depending on what material, what fabric you're ironing. I've turned it down a little bit because it was being very steamy. When it gets to doing the top at the back, you need to be careful that you're not ironing the shape of the collar onto the back of the shirt, which can sometimes happen. This lighting is going to really annoy me. So I will approach from this way. Make sure I'm pulling it tight, and then go around this where I can feel the collar underneath, and then we will come back and do this bit in a moment. Sleeves, again, I want to make sure I'm not just ironing over the whole thing, because that would give you a crease on the sleeve, which a lot of the time is undesirable. Just like this side. And up to the edge, not over it. So the back has come out pretty well, but we want to finish this bit here, which I don't want to do on top of the colour because you get an unsightly imprint. So I'm going to go in to the shirt, pull it over the ironing board as if I'm putting the t-shirt on the board, and that way I can get to this section of the back with the ironing board covering it, and then you just iron. Now for the front. The front isn't as bad now as it's already been pressed a little from the other side. Just want to be really careful that I'm not ironing in any creases on the back, so I'll just tug gently here or here to make sure it stays tight. So there's a crease here which I guess got ironed in from the back. It happens, don't worry. If you have any clothing with this kind of imprinted, pressed on transfer, you don't want to be running your iron over that. This will melt and your iron stick to your iron and make a mess. Pulling out, checking it's smooth, and using the nose of the iron to get as close to the writing as we can, but not over it. Good. And then the sleeve up to the edge, not over it. this is as good as we'll get it. Put this straight on a hanger. And there is a beautifully ironed t-shirt. And I would just hang this on the back of my door, as you can already see. Next, I want to iron a shirt. A lot of people don't like ironing shirts. I am not one of those people. This is a school shirt of my daughter's, and I imagine it's got some sort of ink stain on it somewhere, although I can't see one. I always start ironing shirts with the right arm as I'm looking at the shirt. I find if you iron the front panel and then the shirt, you end up sometimes with creases in the armpit, but on the front panel. But if you iron the arm first and then the front panel, then any creases tend to be in the armpit of the sleeve rather than on the front, and that's much less noticeable. Starting with the front sleeve, both sides. Same as before, going up to the edge of the sleeve, not over it. If there's a seam like there is here, that doesn't matter, you can go over that. Pulling it a little bit up to the edge there. And then when you've done this on, you can do the front panel, which, just like the t-shirt, you're going to put it over the ironing board as if you're dressing the board. And get as big a space that you can to start with. Sometimes shirts can have added starch that can take quite a few washes to get out, and that can make it harder to re-iron. I'm going to spray a little bit of water. And this will just help the creases ease out a little. Just leaving the weight of the iron on the clothing is enough. Going round the buttons as best I can, but bearing in mind that this strip will be covered by the other side of the shirt, so it's more important that I get that side. While I've gone up into this corner, I haven't really been able to get here, so I'll just adjust like that, and then bring the iron just to this area. I don't want to iron in any of these bubbles. That's gone pretty well. For the back, dragging the shirt over the board again, and just smoothing it it out as much as you can before you bring the iron to it. So for the armpit here where it's a bit creased, I'll just hold it tight with the other hand to make sure we're not ironing in any creases, which does happen plenty of times, especially if you're rushing. So stretching. Usually takes about 3 sections, I would say. So that was the left-hand section. Let's do the middle section of the back. Going up to the collar, and I iron the collar last. And then let's do the final section of the back. You'll find that the shape of the ironing board will really help with a lot of clothes, skirts as well, fit very nicely around this shape. Now we come to the arm, and just like before, we'll do the arm before we do the front panel. So lay it out like that. The other side. There's the ink stain that I found. Let's do the front panel, the other side. And I'm going to spray it again because I want it to look really crisp. So this time I can go straight over the buttonholes because that will be the part of the shirt that's on show. Collar. My daughter doesn't actually like the collar being too sharp. So allow it to sit as it wants to. It will slightly bow a little, and then all I will do is iron the top. To ensure this fabric is pressed, then I'll just let it sit as it wants to. If this were a more formal shirt, you could look at either spraying some starch on it or positioning it how you want it to sit with a tie or with a bow tie and ironing it in place like that. But this is just a school shirt, so I won't worry about that. Shirts sit best on the hanger if you can do up the top button. For a long time I couldn't do up the top button because my thumbnails were both extremely long. Now they're both very short, so I am able to just about do up the top button, and it just means that it sits on the hanger in a nicer shape. So there's a shirt. I want to show you some trousers. I think this is something else other people perhaps dislike ironing, but when you know how to do it, it's very easy. These are some school trousers, and the thing to remember about smarter trousers is to iron them with the crease in the middle of the leg. So that when they're being worn, you have the crease running down the middle of the leg. Now again, this is just for school, so I'm not going to go too over the top, but you can work to make this crease very sharp, which looks very smart. So, first thing to do after they've washed and dried is to find the middle crease, or what's left of it, and fold the trouser leg along that crease as best you can. And we're going to lay it out on our board. So we're going to run the iron along, and we are going to iron over the crease because we really want to emphasize this crease in this situation. So I can go over the whole thing, pulling it slightly to ensure we're not ironing in the wrong creases. And you're just going to do that up as high as you can. Flip the whole leg over, and again do as much as you can the other side. On the trousers, the side of the front, I'm going to pull it over the end of the board again to give me a chance to iron this front section. If you have a pocket, it will be worth straightening out the pocket because that can give you creases, and it's just a case of getting as much space as you can. I don't bother doing the same on the back because my son is very slim and he has the trousers hoiked together for his little waist, so I don't see any point in ironing that back section. So there's one leg, and you can really see the difference in the crease for the one that I've done and the one that I haven't done. So let's do this one. So, finding the crease that Marks and Spencer put in for you. I'm genuinely curious to know if anyone watching this video actually irons their own clothes, because I feel like it's a dying art. In fact, I only started ironing about 2 years ago, and before then I always thought it was a complete waste of time. However, now I've started, I can't possibly imagine not ironing my clothes. I must have looked so creased. Although, having said that, I never actually notice on anyone else if their clothes are ironed or not. I don't think I've ever looked at someone and thought, wow, your shirt's very creased. And then the front section on this side. Put your hand in the pocket to flatten it down. I'm going to turn this down now and then turn it off at the plug. Another ironing tip is to always make sure your iron is on its lowest setting when you turn it on at the plug. Otherwise you could blow the fuse. Okay, let's have a look how these came out. This is pretty good, good and crispy lines. So the way you want to fold these or hang them, I will be hanging them, is to grab them by the crease and let them fall. Sort of shake it out and they will settle pretty well. You can see the part I haven't ironed on the back here, but that's okay. And you can just adjust a little, tend to, if you can pull in a little bit at the back there and on the front. Again, it looks scruffy here because of the ruching of the fabric, but this will mean that the trousers are sitting flat all the way down. And then you want to get either a claw hanger or the one I have is a trouser hanger like this, and you'll line them up and just post them through. And they all sit really nicely in a wardrobe like that, beautifully flat and ironed. And I had a few more items I was maybe going to iron, but I can't believe I've just spent half an hour ironing 3 items, so I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed my ironing tips. Ironing with long nails.